You know, it's funny. I've heard you tell your story before, but it just seems like this time you told it a little differently than what I'd heard before. And it made me think of a couple of questions I have for you. So you can talk about some of those opportunities to serve in some of those very elite units. Was that a decision that you made? Did you say, I really want to join the ranks of the Rangers? Or did someone tap you on the shoulder and said, you know, you should really consider this?
Well, I entered the Army in December 1974, and the Army was really not, as an organization and an institution, was really struggling. And this was right, obviously, after Vietnam had ended. We'd just gone from a draftee army to an all-volunteer army. We were just really making that huge change. So the Army was having to learn how to market itself, and morale and esprit in the Army was really pretty bad. And my first assignment was in Fort Ord, California. I was an infantry officer. I'd been put in charge of an infantry platoon of 30-some soldiers. I was fortunate enough to have some very experienced non-commissioned officers who had been in Vietnam, who were very dedicated, but we had a lot of discipline problems. And after a year in that unit, I said, if this is what the Army is about, I'm not sure I will make it a career and stay long term. So I started looking around what other opportunities there were in the Army, and they were forming a Ranger battalion at that time. I volunteered for it, wasn't selected, but I was offered to volunteer for Special Forces. And because of my mentor in college, that was something I was interested in at the time. So I took that opportunity. I went to language school that was right there at the Defense Language Institute in Presidio, Monterey in California for 6 months. And I went through their selection process and ended up in the Republic of Panama serving in Special Forces. And then I volunteered a couple times after that to get to the Rangers again. Wasn't selected. So on the third time, about 12 years later, I ended up eventually being selected.